Welcome back to Creature Corner. My name is Jared Krichevsky. I'm a concept artist and creature designer working in Hollywood today for over a decade. Worked on things like Godzilla vs. Kong, Gods of Egypt, Stephen King's It, and then recently Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Worked on some things for that, very exciting. So lots of cool stuff on the way. So Matt Millard is off tonight. It's just going to be me, so you can hang out with me and ask me all the questions your little heart's desire. So come hang out with me. I'm going to show you what I'm working on. We'll get some spooky music up. Let's do that one. I like that much better. Okay, so what we've got here is character I've been sculpting for quite a while. Let's see. Let me get out of this thing real quick. There we go. All right, so the plan basically tonight is to get some color on this guy. Let me give you the kind of chill the spooky for a second. There we go. More underneath the surface. All right, so this is a creature I've been sculpting for very, very long time, it feels like. This is a character from a personal project that I've just been slowly working on and building up and things like that. It's basically just a very, very smelly monster. And got a whole backstory for him, wrote a whole script, and then built some storyboards out for this as well. This is just a project I've had going just to occupy my in-between time. Because, there are going to be times as an artist when you're waiting on notes or you're waiting on clients or you're waiting on projects to start up. So you got to have projects, things to keep you busy in the meantime. And the bigger the project is, the more to do for it, the more to add to it. Just keeps you occupied and keeps you busy, so you're not going crazy in the meantime. So very, very fun process of getting this guy going. He's got UVs on him. I've broken him up into various islands to get to this. This is very, very bad geometry. I just want to point out that this is not like production geometry at all. This is just to get some kind of remesh on this so I can pose the character, apply basic UVs, and things like that. So this is not, if I were to take this character into a production pipeline, I would spend, much more time getting the loops to look nice and, all of this stuff. Yeah, I'm going to show you how we break this guy down, how I broke this down to get to here, and then we'll apply color. Basically, this is just like what I like to call dirty topology, right? It's not production level. It's not meant for animation. This is meant for me to get a pose onto it, possibly just to rig it enough to get it into like Mixamo or something like that. I don't think so, but mostly I'm just using this to get him into a pose or various poses. So let me take you through the story. Let's go through the story of this creature right now. And I've got, where is he? I've got my 10-page script here, short film idea, something that I've been stewing with for a long, long time. And, one thing that just kept me coming back to it is just I've kept thinking about the characters and the story in there, and so it just kind of became an obsession. So I just kept thinking about these characters, and so I wrote a short film with them in mind. The idea is basically to just write something, anything, and make it feel like a scene from a movie. That was my goal. And so I wrote it out. The process of writing it was, it's like anything else. It's a challenge, and especially I don't consider myself a strong writer yet, but that's because it's a discipline, like anything else. So I wrote the short, and then I spent all the time, illustrating and storyboarding a whole sequence, just for this creature. And without giving you all the nitty gritty details of it, because I will go into this, further down the line. But I spent a lot of time doing this, and basically the goal is just to make something, right? To make anything. And then hopefully take it to Kickstarter and see if we can get some actual funds to cast and shoot this thing. So I had to make a monster for this, and this was a monster that had been kind of stewing in my mind for a couple of years. I did a very basic concept of him called Grip, and I just kept kind of coming back to the character, and that's I guess as good as it was going to get. Let me see. So I did this piece, I think, in 2020, and this actual creature was kind of born out of frustration, because I at the time I had a very I would say severe creative block, and I was just frustrated, just sitting down every day like I do every day to sit and work. And I was just hitting walls every day, right? Just like, boom, walls after walls after walls. So one day I sat down and I pulled this creature from a bust that I did and just kind of pulled some drippy shapes down to it. And I thought it was kind of interesting enough to like maybe do some more sculpting on it, do some texturing. So I textured this in Substance Painter, rendered it in Arnold, just as a like, hey, I'm going to mess around and see what the final result is. And this was this series that I did of just renders. I don't know. I liked it, and then other people liked it too, and I just kind of kept coming back to the character. I thought, oh man, this kind of cool, really smelly monster. So that's how it kind of started. And so this has kind of just been my obsession for the past couple of years. And is it even a good, healthy character obsession? I don't know. It's just something to occupy my time. And, hopefully it's cool. So I developed this creature, and then let me show you the initial sketch. So you can see what that creature looked like in ZBrush. It was really simple, right? So I never rendered it below the chest here. It was just kind of like right here. So this is like the actual model for it. Very, very simple compared to like most of the stuff that I do, where I spend like a lot of time like really, really detailing stuff. So it's ugly. It's not really like sculpted to the level that I would push things to even today. But it was cool, and it was enough for me to like just keep coming back to the character. So I developed him further, and this time I developed him with the idea that I would get a suit actor for it. Like, I just wanted to make a short film. I don't know. I thought it would be cool if I could get a suit actor and actually get practical effects to build me, a suit maybe out of foam latex or, something like that. So I don't know, but I built him kind of in that vein here. So I've got some scan data. Let me throw them up real quick just so you can see what it looks like in there. Okay, so this could be worn by a person if we had to. Hey, thanks for hanging out all the way from Jamaica. That's awesome. Into the monsters. So this guy was pretty much, designed with the suit performer in mind. And then, if we can't, afford it or do whatever, I can always just take the asset all the way to a production level because it's just more time anyway, right? So I'm just continuing to mess with this guy. And that was pretty much it. Built him with a suit actor in mind. So obviously some things, wouldn't work. If you try to put an actual human being in this, I don't think it would work. So I had to make some adjustments based on like what an actor could wear. He could possibly wear a helmet with some framing kind of around this area. If it's cast in something soft like silicone, we would get maybe some more squish with it, and it might feel a little bit more natural. Of course, like the process of like getting this over an actor is going to be very time intensive. So I'm trying to pre-think it out as much as possible before I like bid that out. Hello, I'm using ZBrush 22.05. ZBrush has been my go-to software for a decade. So that's it. So I kind of built him more with the suit performer in mind, something that maybe someone like 6 foot, 6'5" would wear, and then he would look really, really intimidating. So here's what he looks like in render, and that looks pretty cool so far. Let me tweak this real quick. There, so you can see the forms a little bit better. So that's what he looks like in render, and you can see that I push detail really, really hard. His guts are exposed, and that's partially why he's very stinky. But that's what he looks like. So the plan pretty much today is just to keep working on it. I might do a little bit of detailing, a little bit of sculpting, because to me, texture and sculpting kind of all go together side by side. So I'm just going to start poly painting this guy. And the question about breaking him up into islands. Let me show you what I mean by that. So let me kind of rewind here, and we'll kind of we'll go on this journey together. We don't need him anymore, so we'll just delete that. Okay. So I had this model here, and basically I had to figure out a way to zero mesh it because my remeshing was just like not working at all. Because it was, it's too big. He was 22 million polys like overall. So I had already pushed it really, really hard. If you look at the geometry. It's a combination of dynameshing and then, you know, isolating parts and using Sculptress for detailing. The detailing isn't like final yet, but it's like really, really pushed. You know, whenever you do a creature with a lot of fingers, you pretty much you're agreeing that you're going to do a lot of fingernails. So I spent a lot of time sculpting each one of these by hand. It took a long time, and then, you know, I sculpted his feet and his toes and all that stuff. You know, this is probably going on like maybe 60 hours, I'm guessing. It's hard to say. Um, it just takes time. Um, so I remeshed him. I just kind of did a blanket ZBrush just to see what the result was, and it was just not usable, right? And then you start kind of going through the list of things that you need to do. All right, do I use polypaint? Do I remesh with curves and curve strength? And nothing I was doing was working. So the next kind of step was to start breaking it up by color. So that's what you see here is I spent time poly painting all the segments of the body. So all of the nails, they got poly painted this this color, and the groups change all the time. But I spent time kind of painting around the borders of each of these edges and each of the toenails just to have more control. And you can see that anywhere else, I did it over the head here. And I did each of these little like drippy tubes here. And then I did it over the eyes because the eyes were going to need extra resolution. So I did that over here. And then up here, like right here, I painted the upper lid, the lower lid, this kind of like outer eye area. And then I also painted the inner part of the eye, and just to have that kind of control as well. So once all of these guys were poly painted, I split it up kind of by segment. So that's what you see over here when I kind of look at each chunk, right? So that was the goal, was to kind of remesh each chunk of this thing. Right, so I split it up by all of the big segments. So here the the nails are a part of it. Same over here. So just thinking about big, large chunks. And then I went through and I remeshed each chunk of this thing. I'm not going to remesh it here just because it would take a long time. And well, this part isn't too bad. I'll show you what that looks like. Basically going into ZBrush, and what I found is my adaptive size had to be cranked up all the way, and same with my curve strength. I didn't use curve strength, but I cranked it up all the way. My overall polygon count, I think I ended up around like at 25 or 30. So I would remesh it here. I would turn on detect edges. Well, what I'm doing is I'm versioning up. I'm saving another version. This is the one to split apart. So I'm just focusing on the body itself. And then once I remesh, I project the details back. So the sculpt is done. What remeshing does kind of is it locks your sculpt into place with topology. So that's why I recommend just sculpting your design all the way to finish and then remeshing after that. As opposed to starting with like a low res base mesh and then working on top of that. Every situation is a little different. So I ended up at about 30 here, and then you want to turn on keeps groups, and then and remesh, and that's what it looks like. Now, even though the sculpt isn't finalized, the kind of basics are there enough that I can kind of push forward with it. Little details now, like I want to fix this area really bothers me, even though it's kind of like one of the main areas we get to see on him, because he's got a T-shirt over his body, but like this area, this is kind of like the money stuff for me, because I want to see it squish as he walks, kind of like even like sound effects. I'm thinking about like squishing and assembling a sound effect library. So this is kind of like where all the rest of the detailing and the love is going to go into. I'll let the dogs out real quick. Okay. So let's check in on the remesh. Okay. So here you go. And it looks like garbage, right? Just like hot garbage. Look at that thing. This is terrible. Look at that thing. So this is telling me I either need to up-res and remesh, and then do another pass on it. So sometimes I'll remesh at a really high level. So I'm just like blasting polygons at this thing. This is probably like not recommended in any kind of like production pipeline, although I'm sure there are artists out there who just like got to make do with what you got to do. In this case, I'm a very lazy like production modeler. Like I'm not going to go through and spend weeks or months topologizing a character if I can help it. If I'm on a task or a project where that's required, of course. So now we've got more filling in there, and then once I've remeshed it, I'll just remesh it again at my desired density, and it'll do two things. It'll remesh faster, and it'll kind of fix a lot of the crap that happens. There you go. You might even do this a couple times. You can turn on half as well. Just continue to remesh and remesh. You might have to do it like 2 or 3 times. Okay. So it starts to kind of clean up. The shapes start to look a little better. There were issues that I had to deal with of like, look at this garbage right here and all this stuff. So it took a lot of trial and error, and I wish, I could say there's like an exact thing that I did that made it work. But eventually, after kind of redoing each of these pieces, this is kind of the topology that I settled on. And what I did is, there we go. Let me show you the islands here. Okay, I kind of already have these kind of all merged together, but when this is kind of what it looked like when I took it into Maya. And I was taking it into Maya today, and I'm like, man, I do not want to like spend all day zipping these things together. Like that's just not interesting or fun to me unless I'm being paid to do that. So I was like, okay, how am I going to do this in the fastest, stupidest way possible? And trying it in Maya was just not going to work. Like I know all this stuff looks really, really ugly and is like not usable. This is definitely not what I would turn into a client like at all, as far as like topology goes. But like when it's my own project and like I don't care, it's just for me for speed. Don't care. So what I ended up doing was um, once I had each part remeshed, you'll see this kind of section right here, this little green, this green guy right here. These are the borders between the islands that I had to deal with to kind of merge this thing back together. So I remeshed each kind of chunk of the body, and then ended up merging everything down in the stack. But now I've got these islands here, and I'll just delete those so you can see. But now I've got these kind of like islands here, gaps in between topology, which these are at different levels. So I think this was like a 20 target remesh, and this was like this was 30 or this was 15, one of the two. Anyway, they don't match as far as like density. um, so like whatever, right? Like I don't care. But what I ended up doing was using ZModeler, and I tried, a couple different commands just to see if this would work. Bridging. Let's see. Let's see if I have a better example. There you go. So this is one where I saved up, I versioned up, so I figured it out right here, and so now I was like, okay, now time to do this side. This side ended up being a little bit more difficult. And then you'll see right here, I had some places where the vertices were welded together, so I had to kind of separate it. So the operation I ran here did a bridge, two hole, and I just kept everything interactive. And I would do one edge and then the other edge, and this was let me turn on polyframe so you can see what's happening. So bridge the two edges, and then I would get this kind of interactive banding here, and I would leave a couple spans in between, and it looks real ugly. So what I ended up doing was first grouping this all together, so it was all the same poly group, and then masking out everything else, so I just have this area selected, and then I would run an inflate on it. So I'd inflate it, and then I would just polish it. And it looks kind of like, it looks horrible, right? It just looks absolutely terrible. But if you smooth it down and you use the alt smooth, you can kind of get it to relax enough. And so it ended up kind of working out. Now this took me kind of all day today, because I spent the day kind of doing all this stuff. I spent all day trying to get this right, and there were all kinds of problems. There's still problems in the final mesh that I'm using, but at this point I was like, okay, I got to move forward at some point. Like I don't want to, I need to get this guy into some frames, start shooting some concepts, start doing paint overs. So that's where we're at today, right? I've got the guy welded together. Once I got him welded, all the pieces kind of sewn together and welded, and it was a task getting to do this, but ultimately it kind of worked out. And then now you can see I have him broken up into new groups for his UVs. So I did have to do some more work for, let's do a UV check. There you go. So I do have UVs on it now. And even that took more time, kind of breaking it up into islands, islands on islands, getting the front and the back of the hands, things like that. And then I ended up having to split the face up even more as I was doing that. So now I've got all that fun technical stuff out of the way. Thought it'd be time to do some painting. So I did do a little kind of paint test. Just kind of laying in some foundation colors. And this is definitely very, very early. But I thought I would just start from blank and just show everybody how I like to paint. So now we'll crank up a little music and we'll kind of zone out and do some painting. If you have any questions for me, hit me up anytime. Feel free to check out my work at Jared Krichevsky on Instagram or at MonsterMash042. So, without Matt here, it's going to be a little bit more chill. So thanks for coming and hanging out. So when I like to poly paint, you kind of have some ways you want to go. I like to start with kind of flooding it with a generous color. My character he is a very smelly monster. He stinks, and so yellow and greens. Kind of sickly bile, jaundice, waxy colors are kind of what I'm looking for. So I'm going to kind of flood it in a light color, but I do tend to go. You can either go two ways: is you start light to dark or dark to light, right? Kind of build up your areas. In this case, I'll start with this light and then kind of build in some darkness. I've got my color here. My color is I can't see me because I'm over there. Come over here. So I've got my color over here. And everything's kind of in that yellow, warm range. And I'm just going to be kind of color picking from that arena. And we'll go for it. And I'm going to start, I like to change my type to a spray. And then my alpha to a spray like alpha 07 or 08. And that's pretty much it. We're just going to start painting. Make sure you turn lazy mouse off if you have that on. And I'll just start working over the guy. I'm going to kind of start hitting into some of the cracks here. Maybe a little bit more color. You can also turn your smooth brush. If you have your smooth brush on, make sure you turn Z-Add off. And I'm just hitting spacebar for this menu. But make sure you turn Z-Add off. Because then you can smooth and blend your paint. So just by holding shift. That kind of creates a little gradient there. I'm just going to start getting into those nitty gritties. I've kind of already done a test run of this, so I kind of know where I want to go, or kind of what the problem areas are. sometimes it's good to just kind of put some paint down, test it out, play with colors, see if you like it. Let's go for it. Hope everyone had a good 4th of July weekend. Let's go back. Let's go back to Big Town. Going back to Big Town. Gonna see some monster movies. Just want to make a big, smelly monster. Was that too much to ask for? So I'll use C to sample in between colors. Dip into some more yellows. I kind of want to lean. One problem I had is if I was trying to go too yellow, he starts looking like a Simpsons color, you know, and it didn't look good when I was rendering it or doing tests. I have to be careful about going too saturated. So you want to hang out. I'll just bring this up here. Just kind of want to hang out in the more kind of desaturated area of color. So we're just starting with like big blocky colors, not trying to get into little details yet. Just start big and broad. I'm thinking how they would, you know, paint this in a practical effects shop, because if I can present the design in that kind of vein, and we're all speaking the same language, hopefully we can get people kind of on the same page faster. It's my hope at least. So kind of just thinking about areas that would get, you know, would look better with darker pits. Like the knees would be a little darker, the kind of the toes, bottom of the soles of the feet. You know, the knee pits here, deep crevices. And just starting with big, broad colors. The spray is really necessary because that adds a lot of like variation in there. Now, if you're doing like a stylized character, you're probably going to be using like flat colors. But if you're trying to go towards like realism, realistically, colors are broken up into lots of like little mini breakouts and little colors. Layers and layers of colors, levels of colors. And then when I do introduce color, I have to kind of creep up on it. All right. Start simple and then go to complex. Just tumble around, and then I'll take it into Keyshot just to kind of get like a vibe. So we're here. Definitely in the belly area, more saturated. It's gonna look wet, nasty. And then if we have time, we'll start putting some extra gunk and goodies on him as well. Vile, horrid thing. Definitely a gradiating, like it gets darker as we kind of go down the drips. Color is really what is going to bring this guy to life. First time, my first art of it, he's very pink and fleshy, and I don't want him. I realized I don't want him to be pink and fleshy. I want him to, be putrid and disgusting. Which pink and fleshy would be good too, but different kind of monster that I'm turning him into. Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for coming to hang out. Let's see. He'll get more realistic as we keep working on it. Ah, not my mouse. All right, let's take a look at where it was at. Yeah, see? Browns are looking pretty good. Might have to bump the lighting just a little bit. So we can read everything that's going on. And then I have a texture that I made for him. Just a skin material that can be used with poly paint. And I just have to drag that on. There we go. So now I know what he would look like with the skin material on him. And I have some kind of basic shots kind of set up here. Save with the camera, kind of front on view. front on view here, kind of front close up, kind of a Dutch angle, various kind of tumbling cameras. But I will, you know, take it and let's unlock the resolution. There we go. And I'll kind of tumble around it, and I'll kind of find some frames that I like. You kind of get a feeling for how you would shoot this guy, you know, how he would move. He's kind of like slowly turning, and you see this kind of like nasty stink monster here. Kind of like, you know, some slow kind of like panning shots like this. You know, he's going to be bigger than you. He's by a lot. And it's very gross, and it's supposed to make you feel gross. So that's what he does, is he makes you feel bad. You see him, you smell him, you die. Yeah, pretty fun. Pretty fun, getting close. Another thing that I like to do is I've been adding hair on top of it with the fuzz. The fuzz! So by adding a geometry node, and I'm in Keyshot, by the way, just taking a fuzz and plugging that into geometry. And we're going to do some things real quick, like lower the radius, make sure that it's a cylinder, select a color, make sure that specular highlight. That's probably fine. So let's add some hair on him. So you have to click on this, and then you have to click Execute Geometry Node. Okay, so he looks kind of like a fuzzy teddy bear. So we have to add some segments, and we have to add some variation and some randomness. Okay, so it's looking good. Now it's more like a little bit more craggly. So we'll add some more randomness and lower the radius, lower the density, and then we'll pick a nice color. There we go. Density radius can go up a little bit so we can see it. But you can see, you know, some things happening in the shadows and lighting here. So lighter color. Let's get rid of spooky wind songs. There you go. Maybe not that one. So spooky. So spooky. Can you convert these to cards or something usable for games? In Keyshot, no. This is mostly a render time. It's a real time application, so not generally used for games. But in ZBrush, you can generate fiber mesh for games from cards and things like that. But there are a lot of different workflows for that. This is more just kind of like I want to make neat looking stuff. No problem. Thanks for coming and hanging out. So now he's got like little hairs on his arms, and it's a subtlety thing. But you'll see it. Look at that! Look at that stray guy up there. And I'm sure you can't even see it on this, but it bothers me. There. Cool. So now that's now we've got some hairs on him. Colors looking good. Maybe a bit saturated, but that'll kind of get knocked down as we continue to paint. All right. So let's continue with some of these colors here. Anywhere there's kind of a deep crevice. And once you kind of get a nice base coat on everything, then you can start masking and generating some kind of cool patterns that way that you can use to help you paint. Just thinking about where all that nasty stuff settles in. Let's go start getting a little darker around the eyes. Darker, a little bit more saturated, maybe a little less. Because we're going to want to pop the eye and the color of the eye. All these little crevices. Get in all these little crevices. More yellow. Always more yellow. Yellow's the theme for this creature. Yellow and brown. But when you have when you have a spray texture on your color, it just kind of does so much of the work for you. It just creates breakup and looks nice and natural. Just be methodical in how you're painting. Good paint can bring a character to life, and really bad paint can really ruin a really good sculpt. All right, I'm ready to start kind of masking by ambient occlusion. So I've got that set to a hotkey down here. Compute. And masking by AO always takes the longest, but it's worth it when it works. Gets to like right about here. You think it's going to crash. don't touch it. The temptation to like want to mess with ZBrush when it's doing this is you're like, is it gonna crash? Is it gonna crash? Don't touch it. Just let it do its thing. Don't surf the internet. Hands off. Just don't touch it. This is the faster ambient occlusion too. This is the one that's in the Z plugin menu. Use that one over the one that's in the masking menu. Although they're doing the same thing, I think the one in the plugin menu works faster. Sometimes I doodle when I'm waiting for stuff. Suppose while we're waiting on that, Stink Monster, yes. It'll look wicked. I have my kind of flashlight. I know the hair is still kind of crashing into the face and a lot of stuff kind of not working yet, but as a block-in, it's fine. Yes, I know the Great Mighty Pooh. Played that a lot in high school. That was the extent to my sense of humor. I thought, Great Mighty Pooh songs. I'm like, this is where I was at. But start planning out some cool shots. But this is kind of, I mean, in a way, he's inspired by the Great Mighty Pooh. Because he's going to throw his stuff at you. It's poop. He's throwing his poop in. All right, let's check in on our poly paint. There we go. So you can see the mask is now applied. See? Boop, boop. That's the mask in there. Now we're going to invert that mask, and I'm going to turn that mask off so I can actually see what I'm painting. Let's go nice dark. And I'm going to use symmetry for this, but I'm just trying to get in these dark crevices in here. Get all this good stuff. Get in under the hands and the arms. Maybe even a little darker. It's kind of like upper, lighter area, darker, kind of richer tones in here. I am the Great Mighty Pooh. Oh, yeah. I'm going to throw my ish at you. I have a theater degree. True story. So we're kind of now washing all that ambient occlusion layer, which is kind of a nice dark tones, and that'll kind of pop the shadows a little bit. We can start kind of building up and working some other areas here. Again, I mentioned that this area is still problematic for me. I might do a little fixie right here. I'll have to do a little bit more work on that, but that area is going to bother me, which is dumb. But what can you do? Thank you, son. Okay. Almost done painting in the cavities kind of here. Let's turn off your mask. Just kind of getting into all these dark crevices. And then we'll go over it again and again. We're going to do a lot of passes on top of this. Just rotating around the model. You know, it kind of gets light and then dark and then light again. All right, so clearing out that mask. And now we can start a little bit of color back. Let's introduce a little bit more color into this area. Maybe a little warmer. I don't want to stray too far off from my yellows. Let's try. If you want to taste, you can turn on interactive AO. You can see that's really intense. Oh, no wonder. By the way, you should make sure that you're painting in skin shade. I was painting in basic material. I was like, man, why can't I see the paint? And that's because I was in the wrong material. So this is a good time to switch into material and then color fill object with material. So now that material is applied. I can just go back to art and RGB. And then if I switch out my materials, now I know, okay. So I was like, man, something's going on. Because that also affects how Keyshot reads the material as well. So let me actually send that back over and see if there's a difference. It's like, man, that looks better. That looks more appropriate with the occlusion turn on. This is still very strong occlusion. If I want to dial that down, you do it up here, and you can. Is that real time? That's preview AO. That's up here. There we go. So you can dial that intensity down. And that'll kind of give you the effect of what the AO would look like in Substance or something like that. I might take it into Substance, just to, because there's a lot of extra goodies that they can, add on top of that. Thank you, Meat Clown product. He's a very smelly monster. He stinks like the poo. I imagine it's a smell far worse than poo. Like if you've ever stood next to like a hot dumpster on a hot day, it's kind of the smell that like forces its way into your body. Anyway, so now I can start kind of getting a little bit more into the details since I've already got my kind of base coat on. Now I can kind of like start hitting these dark crevices in here. Let's check our Keyshot render. That looks much better. Turn my other lights on. This is kind of my main kind of render lighting. Here. Yeah, that's already looking better. Not a fan of the orange that's happening here, but you know, it's an experimental process, so we'll see. Very, very smelly. He's got what they call a smelly belly. You can feel the sugar hitting me from my Coca-Cola. Mm. All right. Maybe dip into more reds, like browns in here. Find out. Too red. See, it's not rotting, so I don't want it to give. I don't want to like think of it like cool blues or anything like that. This is going to be. It's more like actively sick, jaundicey, waxy colors, mucusy. You know, this creature was actually born out of something very funny. Is just my seasonal allergies. You know, there's that time of year hits, and then all of a sudden, like, blah, you are just like constantly dripping from the face, and that's kind of what it was born out of. Start getting in some of these crevices in here. So lights against darks. If you really want to pop an area, never go into like full black. We're just trying to find some crevices in here. I would never dip full into like full pure black or pure white. Always kind of let the shadows do that work. This is kind of the area that I'm going to spend most of the time on anyway, because this is kind of where all the money. This is where the money is. And maybe even some yellowy. Yeah, maybe a little yellower. So there's a nice kind of visual contrast between the front drips and the back ones. Back ones are a little bit darker. I'm building up an entire world for these guys. And many more monsters that I want to populate with. The goal is to just create so much work for myself I'll never be finished. And there will be many, many other projects in between. But this was something I just kept coming back to. So I thought, you know, if the impulse is strong enough, most things you work on, you kind of lose interest in, or stuff happens. But if you have something that you love and it just keeps coming back to you, explore it. Explore it until you're done exploring it. It's a fairly easy creature to polypaint too, just because he's gross and nasty and you just want variation. Now I'm using much smaller brush sizes. If you could see what I was doing with my hand, I'll switch out for you. What I'm doing with my brush tip is I'm kind of swirling like this. So I'm making a lot of kind of random gestures and movements just to add variation. So that, along with the kind of spray tip, it recreates a brush effect. If I were painting a model with acrylic, it's just lights against darks. But what's nice about digital versus actual materials is I can always go back. I can change things. I can be a little bit more experimental with practical painting. You have to be very deliberate with what you're doing. Really dark around this kind of area. You can use color to kind of push and pull forms, push things in, pull things out with color. So if I want to kind of emphasize some of the forms here, I can really use some dark colors kind of underneath and around it. Let's hit it with some light. I'm going to try. If I find this right color. So using ambient occlusion to kind of help me find my lost detail. So I can paint it up again. I'm trying to introduce just the right amount of color without going too saturated. Let's try it with this red. That kind of makes it feel more rotty. I don't want it to look rotting. Because it's not a zombie. We've seen zombies. This is not a zombie. It is a fleshy stink monster. Let's go back to this brown. I think then that's probably going to have to be our solution. Well, let's test it. You won't know until you see it. And it's probably fine. Make it look a little wetter. Just let it sit for a second. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it looks gross. Maybe it's just me. But I'm pretty happy with it. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it's pretty gross. All right, let's keep going. I think pleased with that result. So I'm just going to keep sampling some of these darker tones, and we'll just keep kind of noodling in the crevices here. We can probably start using some more masking. So the ambient occlusion mask takes a little bit longer, but some of these other ones are like a little bit faster, peaks and valleys. So we'll do that one. I'll kind of dig into those surfaces here, create some randomness. See how that looks. Hell yeah, he is. So his entrance comes in. I want it to be a heavy metal riff when he comes in, like hard rock. He's gonna bash some dude's brains in. And it's gonna be real stinky. It's gonna be real stinky. He's gonna make it smell like doo-doo. So just getting in these little tiny crevices. Oh, this is why it's important to really push into the sculpt as well, like to push your forms, so you can really get this stuff to read. So he's got these kind of little veins here traveling over his heart. It can be a little blackened or yellow. I like this yellow black here. Darker yellow. And really, I haven't changed my brush at all. I've only been using the same brush. We'll change brushes in a little bit, but the bulk of everything you're going to do, I'm going to do, is just going to be done here. And then this is also nice about having segments, painted off as well. Because I can mask and then paint off, underneath these areas. Oh, yes. Especially in those crevices here. This could be a nice place to hide a seam, for the actor. Trying to use fat fold for natural seams places to hide them, so we can do snaps or magnets if we need to. So even though I'm using digital, I'm thinking with practical effects in mind. Because I have a dream that I want to make a short film with the Stinky Monster. That's my dream. Swirling my brush around and just creeping into the details. And some happy accidents happen. I like this kind of like warmer tone here. I like that for like maybe the fingers. Closer to the tips here. Let's get in some of these crevices in here. Fine details like the fingernails, those will come later. So I'm just trying to push separation where these areas can, a dark color against a light color, which will help kind of focus the eye so you can read that these are separate fingers here. They're all kind of malformed and forming over one another. Breaking up this big swath of color. I know I shouldn't be concerning myself too much with this area, but I mean, that's pretty much what you see. We should be working on this stuff instead. We turn the other clothes off, though. Turn off shirt. Tying off his little buddy. I don't think I need this pants anymore. I can get rid of that. I don't need this old shirt anymore. You can see this is what I was using as the foundation for the shirt he's going to wear. Imagine wearing a shirt this big. It's kind of awesome. Let's get rid of it, though. As you're moving on and you're blocking stuff out, just get rid of, stuff that you don't need anymore. This other t-shirt. I also have these parts in saved and backed up, so this is why you always version up anyway. This is another old shirt. I can get rid of that one. This is a better shirt. this one. That's the shirt I want. So then turn off the shirt. You ain't got no shirt. I got no shirt, buddy. No. It's kind of a nice way to work because it'll see what I'm actually needing to paint. I like this brown right here. Don't want to neglect the back now. Even though it's going to be less important, still want to get those areas. Really shadow underneath the shoulder blades here. All this good stuff. Thinking his feet would be, he's walking in mud, he doesn't have any shoes on, so his feet would be a lot dirtier. From very simple block in to a lot more complex. Send him over. Yeah, gnarly. This is when it really starts to look. This is when you get the magic, baby. Look at it and render. You can start making decisions. It's a little too soon, but I want to start painting the fingernails because it's going to look so cool. Awesome. big stinky monster. Having a good time making stinky monsters. We don't need Matt Millard, do we? Ha! I'm kidding, Matt. We miss you. Little cracks in here. Little details. All right, start painting some fingernails. He said decisively. So in this case, I don't want to lose the brush that I've already made. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clone my brush. And then now when I look at this brush, it's going to be a different brush. So what I'm going to do is turn off the focal shift here. Okay. And then I'm going to turn on mRGB. So I'm going to be using color and material. And I'll use kind of like, again, yellowy nastiness here. And, you know, my old poly grouping is still sort of there, but it's not perfect anymore. But it doesn't matter. I'm just going to kind of use it as a base anyway. You know, it's a good thing I don't mind repetition. Here we go. Also, I'm going to change out of my spray brush because I don't want to do that. And I want to use my toy plastic material. Maybe a light hue here. No. Let's see if we can. Oh, it's the alpha. I want to make sure this alpha is turned off. There we go. So I'm just going to kind of fill in where I can. just to save myself time. I might even just go ahead and fill object. Okay, so now the nails are kind of flooded, as flooded can be. And then I'll kind of use that as a baseline for the rest of the nail. If you like doing the same thing over and over again, you'll love sculpting fingernails on a creature with a lot of fingers. Debated in my head, like, man, do I really want to do this? And ultimately, I decided to stick it out because I already spent enough time on it. So now by applying this material, this shinier material, I'm just using toy plastic. I'm now painting different material on the model, which will come in real handy. And if I want to paint it back, I just have to make sure that I'm remembering to switch material. So it's just an extra thing you have to keep track of, but it's worth it when you see the result. So just kind of going back over here and kind of cleaning up anything else. And sometimes when you get really close up, you need to rotate from the menu. Okay, sampling that, switching over. Going back to your palette. Here on this side. Here. Back to skin shade. That. Painting fingernails. I don't think as a creature guy you'd have to be good at painting fingernails, but you do. Give him a little manicure. The result will be really, really cool once we get that, then add some yellows to it. We'll go ahead and switch it over now. See the result. Pants will be incorrect because they'll be very shiny as well. Weird. You can see what happened here. Two materials applied here. So this was an accident. Not supposed to happen. It's okay. You can see the stair stepping here. So this means I have to make sure I go back and paint everything with the proper material. But now I have the fingers here, and I can start applying material to this. And what I'll do is I'll just start with my skin shader as a copy, and then I'll select it, and then I'll just paste material. Okay, so now they're sharing the same kind of material. in this case, change the subsurface to yellow. Let's make sure I'm on the right layer. Let's make them really translucent. Translucent, much, much shinier. Oh, I'm affecting the wrong layer. All right, so something's definitely funky, just because there's some weird errors going on. So we got to fix it. Sometimes that means you have to go over the model again, and we'll just fill object. This time we'll fill it just material over the skin shader, and just brush over everything just to make sure we didn't miss anything. And then we'll try this. So I'll make sure I delete morph target and I don't have any layers turned on, just as a backup. This time we'll go to masking and we'll mask by color. Mask by polypaint. Because now we can select this color. And mask. Okay. Now I can fill this back to the toy plastic. And that should work. Okay, guys. My dogs are a little scared because they hear some fireworks. Okay, guys, you're okay. I get nervous because of the boom boom. If you're a dog owner, July 4th is just miserable. Look at her. Look at her. Look at this. She never does this. Come here. It's okay. It's okay. You're okay. You're okay, guys. You're okay. It's okay, Gilly. It's okay. You're okay, sweetheart. Gilly has a really hard time with fireworks. And our neighbors love to set off fireworks, so we're very happy all the time. Let's try this again. It is starting to look a little dark overall, so that's something I am going to have to be careful with. It looks good in some places, like I like it dark here, but I want to brighten it up maybe a little bit in some other spots. It's okay, Gilly. Okay. All right, let's try this again. You can see what's going on here. Look at that. Gotta love it. It might be doing this because I might have a mask that I don't know about. So that's probably what happened when I masked my color. So let's try it again. Just gonna clear any masks, and then we're just gonna fill it to skin shade, and then we'll worry about material later. Now let's send it back over. Right now, I'll just block it in with the color. We'll do everything proper. Let's look at it. Yep. Now it's all one object again. So that's something we'll have to fix. It is looking pretty fun, especially with all the little hairs on top of it. It's okay, Gilly. It's okay, baby. Poor Gilly. Okay, okay. Can you wait 10 minutes, sweetie? Can you wait 10 minutes? Can you wait 10 minutes, honey? It's okay. It's okay. She's a nervous sleeper. I don't know if you can even see her head is poking up underneath. All right. It doesn't look so bad. Yeah, it looks like a big stinky monster, all right. Pretty pleased with it. If I could just get the materials to work on the fingernails. But in the meantime, I'll just paint with flat color. And then we'll just use masking to select. Yeah. The dogs are having a good time. Oh, I was painting with material, need to be painting with RGB. I was like, why is nothing I'm doing working? It's okay, Gilly. And then I got these little fingernails under here, too. I just love giving myself stuff to do. See, why finish a project you can complete quickly when you can do a project that goes on forever? Painting them fingernails. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me and watching me paint some fingernails. If you have any questions for me, please feel free. Be happy to answer. Could be anything you want to talk about. Jared, what's your favorite kind of soap? Let's get invasive. Maybe you just like watching me paint fingernails. I don't know. Are you working on something right now? Lots of fingernails. It's a lot easier painting them than sculpting these one by one. That took a long time. It took me like at least a day and a half to sculpt all these fingernails. Now, normally I would, maybe make an alpha or a VDM brush, but for some stupid reason, I just wanted to keep sculpting them by hand. So I figured out a pretty good technique for sculpting fingernails. And I did that for like 2 days. Like, man, I'm getting good at sculpting fingers. You know what? I'm going to do this for 2 days. Could have been maybe more productive with my time, but I don't know. Just keeping me busy. It's all about that project that you just keep coming back to. Sometimes I would take a long break from it and then come back to it. But I kept coming back. We're having a good time. And then before we go tonight, I might even pose the arms down just so we get a nice kind of idea of what it would look like. All those little crevices. Okay, Gilly, it's all right. It's all right. It's okay, Gilly. Come here. Come here, look at this. Look at this. How can you say no to this? Come here, Gilly. Look at her. She's so nervous. It's okay, Gilly. Look at her. Look at this. Look at this. She's so nervous. It's okay, baby. No, she's having a bad time. She's having a bad time. Well, I think I got to put her to bed, folks. So she's going to be like this all night. So say goodnight, Gilly. Yeah, say goodnight. Okay. Thank you to our sponsor, Lenovo. Thank you to Gnomon School of Visual Effects. Thank you to Matt Millard, who couldn't be here tonight. Maybe he'll return next week. Find out. And thank you all for... She's not having a good time. She's not having a good time. Gilly. All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time on Creature Corner. Good night, y'all.